Hola, good people, and welcome back to We Are the New Normal. Thank you for coming to see me again. As you can see today, I'm not basking in my glorious sunshine, but I am sitting enjoying the still hot outdoors right at sundown. It's a very nice time of the day. And I'm doing so because I was thinking about something that was pretty pivotal and important in my journey of changing my life, actually changing how my life is going. So if you find yourself keep attracting the same type of people, keep attracting the same type of situations, feels like everywhere you go, people are interacting with you a certain type of way, or every time you get a new girlfriend or a new boyfriend, it's a certain type of person that comes into your life and treats you a certain way, and you're tired of it and you're looking to find out why and how you can break that cycle or that repetition. The key is shadow work. So people on and every day present themselves, and what you're actually seeing as a presentation of themselves is their ego. So it is basically a representation of how they want you to see them. It is not necessarily a accurate representation of themselves, how they feel about themselves, but more of a representation of how they want the world to take them. So shadow work is working on the part of you that actually drives you, and that is your subconscious. So for this, we're going to say that the ego is more of the conscious work and effort and thoughts, and your shadow is your subconscious. So in your shadow, what you're holding or what you're hiding or what you're keeping behind you is the parts of you that you don't like, the parts of you that you have rejected, the parts of you that are too painful to accept, the parts of your life that are too painful to remember and repeat. Those things that you have pushed down and pushed back all reside in that shadow. But what's crazy about that is that it's actually your shadow that's in control. So your shadow, first of all, you can see a representation of your shadow in your ego, in your physical presentation of yourself to everyone else. So for example, if you feel like, I don't know, let's say you feel that when you were younger, you were ignored. No one paid any attention to you. That may manifest in your ego as someone who's very flashy and flamboyant and is just dying for attention. Okay, so that was just to give you kind of the correlation. So although your ego is presented outwardly as this is definitely me, you see it, you touch it, it's real because I can see it and I can touch it. The reality of it is that what's in your shadow has already affected your ego, and now it's also going to affect your life. So we know that thoughts drive everything. Thoughts drive action, which then creates your reality. So if you have, it's said that your conscious mind controls about 5% of your thoughts in a day. Your subconscious mind controls the other 95% of the thoughts that you have in a day. So if your thought subconsciously is, I'm invisible, people don't see me, I'm boring, or no one likes me, you've pushed that back. You don't like feeling that way, but you don't realize because you feel that way, it makes you obnoxious, or it makes you starved to be the center of attention. And so when you are constantly presented with situations that allow you to become the center of attention, or take attention away from someone else because you don't feel comfortable with someone else being the center of attention, then you constantly create that same situation in your life. So every time that you're in a setting with friends, or you go to a party, or you go to a gathering, and you wonder why everyone after you join the conversation, everyone gets like real quiet all the time and nobody has anything to say. And you're like, wow, people are just so, they never have anything to say. I'm just longing for a good conversation. You don't realize that it is how you feel about yourself and your shadow controlling your ego, making your ego do these actions every single time. So that's just one situation, but I guess it's probably a little easier to understand. For example, it said that, in relationships, we look for the person in a relationship who was like the parent whose love we never attained. So for myself, for example, once I did my shadow work and I was wondering why, I felt like I was attracting emotionally unavailable people in relationships. And I was wondering, why do I just keep, I deserve more. I give everything. I'm passionate. I love hard and I give everything. And then I get with someone who doesn't reciprocate that. Why does that keep happening to me? So after a while, of working on myself and doing a little bit of shadow work, it's dawned on me that as I was growing up, both my parents were married and my father passed away maybe about 15, 16 years ago. But up until he died, my parents were married. So I grew up in a household where my parents were together. They had normal arguments, but in general, my parents didn't fight. We had, when I think about my childhood, it was good. But when I really, really sat down to think about it, my father was in the home, but he never really interacted with me. When he was upset with my sister or myself over something that we did, he would go to my mother, tell my mom, and then my mom would reprimand us. He didn't want to be the bad guy, so he would always go to her. That's one part of it. In addition, I just remember, he worked very hard, and when he came home from work, he came straight home. He walked straight through the house into the bedroom, took a shower, dinner needed to be ready. He did sit at the table and eat dinner with us, but the conversation was never like directly between my father and myself. We would all have a general conversation and no one's like, looking each other in the eye. I'm not talking directly to my father. And that's kind of how things always went. I don't remember hugging my father. I don't remember really being that close and interactive with my father. So he, for me, was emotionally unavailable. He was physically there and he was a good, awesome provider and he was a good dad. However, what was lacking in our relationship was that emotionally he was not available to me. So it made a stain on me that I pushed into my shadow. So now when I go and I look for relationships and I wonder why I'm always drawn to a certain type of situation or a certain type of person, I realized that I was drawn to people who were like my father, who are going to treat me the same way that my father did, even though I hated it. But that's because I never dealt with it. So when I go into my shadow work and I say, oh, this is why I do this, I had to forgive myself for that. That wasn't something that I needed. It wasn't a burden that I should bear. I had to be compassionate with myself as if it were a friend telling me, some horrible abuse that, they suffered in childhood that is still affecting them in their life as an adult. And when someone tells you that, you listen, you take it in and you have compassion for them. I needed to have that for myself. But I needed to go into the shadows and look deep and see what is it that I'm pushing back that is still actually leading my actions through my subconscious thought. And that's what it is. I kept going after what was unattainable to me, which was my father's affection or, emotional connection. I'm still seeking that in relationships. So in order for you on a practical level to change your life, meaning change your daily interactions, change the relationships that you form, change how people treat you, change how you feel, like your general outlook of how things go every day. If you constantly have these things in your shadow that make you angry, that keep you bitter, and you don't realize that although you think everybody's falling for your ego facade, your shadow is in control. Your shadow is making your ego dance with that costume on. And we all see what you have ignored in your shadow. So take the time. It's going to be painful, but I always say this. If you're in pain right now, which I'm sure a lot of you are, dealing with depression, dealing with anxiety, dealing with other mental illnesses, it's painful. It's physically painful. It's emotionally painful. It's mentally painful. Just think of it this way. If you do not do this shadow work, your life will continue to be painful. If you do this shadow work, that work will be painful, but to end the pain of your life. So be willing to go through this short period of pain to unearth all of the things that you have pushed aside, not accepted about yourself, not forgiven, that you're trying to hide, but don't realize that those things are in the forefront of your life. Those things actually govern what you do, because it is your subconscious that's actually in control of everything. So it is important to feel that. Feel it and let it go. Feel what that feels like so that it gives you an accurate gauge of how that possibly makes you react. People around us are simply reflections of us. If there's somebody that you don't like, let's say you don't like the fact that this person is very, conceited, egocentric. It gets on your nerves that every time they come around, all they do is me, 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 me. Everything's about me, 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 me. Well, the sad part about it is they are a reflection of you. You may not be exactly like that, but the reason why you don't like that in them is because it represents what you actually don't like about yourself. Those things live in the shadows. Even though they're in the shadows, they pull the strings. So I urge you, it served its purpose for you to cope and maintain and exist by pushing those things down, by repressing it, by, just pushing it back and keep on moving forward. It did serve its purpose. Now you need to realize how it is governing your life. Once you realize what it is you pushed back, once you accept it, and once you forgive yourself because you understand why you feel that way, you know what happened to you. You have all rights to feel the way that you feel. And once you just accept that and say, you know what? That person used to do this to you and do that. I can see why you're like that. I can see why you push this back. I can see why you don't like speaking in public. I can see why you dress modestly all the time. I can see why you never want to get close to someone. And forgive yourself, because you did what you had to do to cope and make it through every day. So now it's time for you to get rid of that coping mechanism and actually heal. Go into the shadows, look at that dark stuff, just run through memories. And it didn't take one time of me just sitting and thinking back. It didn't. It just took me being conscious of wanting to go back and have those memories come back. And it was just kind of crazy how it all just kind of came together. Good memories came back, funny memories came back, but then it was just like, oh, this keeps, in every memory, there's the common thread. And it took some time. So this is not something that you're just going to sit down and it's just going to poof and come to you and you're just going to accept it and move on. Take the time to, live your life. And as you encounter different situations, see how it triggers you. And that may be a way to help yourself remember what it is that you buried so deep. But just remember, the things that are happening in the shadow are the reasons why you have consistently negative behavior or consistent behavior that you wish that you could change. Those things are controlled by the things that you have pushed away in your shadow. So it's going to be a painful process, but the pain will be worth it in the end. It will liberate you. It will allow you to be the real person and maybe crack that outer shell and not be that facade. Or you know what, spruce up that facade and actually live in that real thing and make it your real you instead of just a facade. Now you can actually be confident. So put in the work. Be willing to hurt for a little while for the betterment of yourself. So hopefully that was helpful. It was kind of an epiphany to me, and it made such a huge difference in me being aware of how I control my world, being aware of how what I thought about myself determined what other people thought about me. You control all of that. You control your world. You control your interactions, because it's really hard to be an asshole to someone who's just being super kind. So if you keep feeling like you're having asshole interactions, or you're having interactions where people are taking advantage of you, you got to dig deep and see what it is about yourself that is drawing those type of interactions to you, because they are a reflection of how you feel about yourself. Love yourself anyway in this process. Remember that what happened to you happened to you. It's not your fault. And even if you had a part to play in it, forgive yourself. We are all in this process, living and learning. That's it. Nobody came here with a book that told you how to do it. And even if it told you how to do it, you still had to do it. So forgive yourself, love yourself in the process, and discover what it is that you have pushed back that is keeping you stuck in this same cycle all over again that you can't stand. All right? So the gem I would like to drop on you guys today is simply, life is too short to spend it at war with yourself. Let that melt on your mind as I melt in this car. It is so hot and humid, but thanks again, everybody, for coming to see me. I'm sending you guys love. I'm sending you guys hope and faith. I'm sending you guys strength, and hopefully sending you guys some clarity. Thank you once again for coming to see me, and make sure that you enjoy your life, because you are good people. Have a good life.